Great. Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of Masai Fireside Chat. Thank you so much to everyone who is joining us today this afternoon. It's really awesome to have so many folks join us every week, and that too in the middle of a weekday. And today is a very, I think, important topic which doesn't get touched upon too much. One, we will be talking about um, what are the common mistakes that startups tend to make. And the other thing is we'll be talking about a topic which is very close to my heart, which is psychological safety. And to talk about this, we have a very, extremely qualified person with us. We have Ms. Meena Kumari with us. Thank you so much, Meena, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Suyash. Thanks, Masai, for giving this opportunity. I think both the concepts that we will be touching upon today is very close to my heart. Have experienced it firsthand many times. And over the last decade and a half, I think there are so many examples that I can share, like so many stories I can share. It's just not the concept level understanding, but very granular story level understanding of how it impacts people's mindsets, right? So I'm happy to deep dive into all of that today.
Awesome. And just to give you all a brief introduction about Meena, I will be reading this out. It's impossible for me to memorize. There's a lot here. Um, Meena is an HR professional with over 15 years of experience, mostly with tech product and SaaS startups. She's a remote work enthusiast and a digital transformation champion. She has been awarded ETHR Emerging Young Leader 2022 and HR 40 Under 40. Her areas of expertise include building and developing a fully remote, globally distributed team, instrumental in creating cultures of collaboration and implementing change to achieve workforce excellence. She is now most recently, what's your designation now?
Yeah, I've joined as a chief people officer at Hiver.
So the CPO, I had the previous one, so she was the global head of HR at Airmeet, but I think it's just day one, day two or something for Meena as chief people officer at Hiver. So congratulations on that. She's also previously led the people function at Circles.life and also was the head HR business partner at Capillary Technologies, managing their global HR portfolio. She's the founder of a global HR community, the HR Folks, and uses most of her free time talking to like-minded HR leaders to share knowledge, discuss trends, learn, and inspire the HR community. Now, this is just what's on paper. The thing is that Meena is a name that I've been hearing a lot from the past few years, is what I can say. And for me also, this is a kind of a fan moment. So thank you so much for joining us today, Meena. And to start off, just tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, I think you've covered so much and so formally, and thanks for that. Maybe we can get a little informal and talk about my likes, dislikes, and people can get to know me a little bit better. So yeah, in the last 5 years, I think I've had leadership HR roles at most of the early stage startups. So I think I'm pretty much qualified to talk about early stage mistakes that companies end up doing. So I've worked with Capillary. Capillary wasn't an early stage, but definitely an organization that was growing. Saw a lot of mistakes there, built their HRBP function, globally expanded the organization. Have seen how to coach leaders there, how to bring in very objective ways of mentoring leadership, changing a lot ground up, right? Changing mindsets, people with fixed mindset, how to really move them to growth mindsets, how to really imbibe that founders mindset in people, right? People lack ownership. They just feel like, okay, I've been here for so long, so you can't question me and all. So really tapping on to how you can bring ownership back into the job. And then come to Circles Life. I spent about 10 months in Singapore and then back in India for 4 months. Massive exposure. I loved working with very fast moving organizations. I think after working at Singapore, everything is slow, right? For me, I think I learned some massive skills while I was at Circles Life, thanks to a lot of people, a lot of mentors there. Really bringing more color, buzz, and vibe into everything that you do, right? I mean, absolutely mind-boggling. And I've used those learning when I came to Airmeet. Airmeet, I started from scratch. There were only 30 people when I came to Airmeet. You come here, you have the entire ground for yourself. You don't know where to start, right? And I was hell bent to go the entire round, right? And wanted to do it multiple times. So I started with what matters the most, right? We started with hiring, started with onboarding. Then we even bought to get people together to pick their brains and put a culture book in place, put a playbook for how to work remotely, right? How to become efficient, right? I'm so glad that Airmeet itself had that tool that was ready to enable everybody, right? And I'm really sad that we're still doing Zooms. We should have done this on Airmeet as well. I'm still a big fan and big ambassador of Airmeet platform. Did some massive stuff there, right? It was just not doing the meetings on Airmeet. It was living on Airmeet platform, right? There's an absolutely stark difference there. And I'm sure leadership in Airmeet, will agree with me. Anything that we do, it's interviews, it is town halls, everything we did on Airmeet in a much, much different way. This was a different flex we had, right? So yeah, having an absolutely amazing platform. And then I had that entire ground for me to cover super innovative stuff, super creative stuff. And all the mistakes that I learned back at Capillary, at Circles, at hundreds of other places, talking to multiple people, I had this chance to undo it here, like unlock stuff, unlock potential, tap into newer ways of working, tap into newer, innovation of how we can implement stuff. It's not traditional ways, right? That's when we bought a lot of practices that were unheard of. Remote also was unheard of, right? Back in 2019, nobody was remote. It was only pandemic that pushed us to remote. And I'm so glad by the time pandemic hit us, we were already ready. Everybody were crawling, but we were setting foot to run. So that was an amazing chance. And I'd like to talk more because as we dive into mistakes and pointers, I'm sure there's hundreds of things that I can add from my experience. I'm not sure who's this person who's so interested to call me at this hour.
No worries. Yeah. No worries. Absolutely. And I'm sure first of all, I agree. I mean, it is a great product. I have used that. Very, very interesting, especially in webinars. And I think given how Airmeet really, really expanded like crazy during the pandemic, that whole experience must have been really something, like you said, from 30 people to, I'm sure it's hundreds of people right now, if not more, and you went through that. So really the perfect person to talk about these things. And which brings me to my first question. This question comes from my own experience in having worked with startups, which is that, do you think startups give sufficient importance to HR? Particularly if we want to talk about early to mid-stage startups?
Yeah, it's a very important question. And I think I've covered this multiple times in my own webinars and conferences back at HR Folks, right? I've brought in a few CEOs and co-founders and spoke to them. And I saw that, right now, I think there's a lot of maturity with founders. They want strategic partnership with HR and not necessarily administrative. But I'm still seeing 50 to 60% of the work that HR today does is still administrative, right? Transformation is still not taken its full form. So say, for example, if I'm joining a company, I want everything to be absolutely digital. If something is still paperwork, I'm not happy about it, right? So I can see that a lot of organizations right today are still doing it, succumb to the fact that they're not able to influence fully digitized versions of how they can function, right? So I would say that founders have to really look into all of this, right? Or they have to give the full power to HR, go ahead and fully transform things. So I still feel there's a lot of scope, but the journey that you've taken is humongous, right? If I have to really compare, I've seen 3 decades of how work is done, right? Back in the 2000s, then the 2010s, and now 20s. Of course, I've worked for a decade and a half, and I've seen this transformation from where it was to today. We spent like 1 week doing forms to 1 day doing forms, and today no forms, right? It's onboarding. You wanna, and before even you join, people are ready with your 30, 60, 90 days trajectory, and you're running on the job. They're creating enough visibility for you to work remotely. They're creating enough value in terms of how you can contribute to the organization and not necessarily look into too much of operations. So a lot of enablement is there. And yes, the transformation is really good, but there's a long way to go. And I'll also love to say that HR team itself, right? We need to restructure the way we structure the HR team. You don't need 10 admins and hundreds of other people to do ground level jobs, right? Bring in digital transformation. Bring in tools that'll be able to do it for you. Even if it's, say, once the offer is rolled out, right from post offer interactions, right? Everything can be triggered through a tool. So use tools to the maximum. And I keep hearing this, right? Even founders keep commenting on it. Why don't we have one tool to do everything? I'm sorry. The answer is that new innovation right now doesn't come across to you saying that, no, what, I have this 100 set of portfolio for you to solve your problems. That's not how the world is working. The SaaS world is changing. Early startup innovation is changing. They want to pick up the smallest problem statement and create a tool for it. So that means you're going to find hundreds of tools any which ways, right? You'll have to look at what works for you and then pick those couple of tools that going to create an impact and utilize it. Say, for example, how do you do post-offer interaction, right? And that has to really drive and connect and tailor the entire onboarding process smoothly, right? From there on, then you look at how you can enable that person. Once the person joins, is there an enablement from, so you give them an LMS to learn, right? And then you put them on tools where they can not just upskill and reskill, but also objectively look at how their jobs are done, give them continuous feedback, put OKRs on a tool, make it very visible. Now I know that I don't have to sit and meet hundreds of people to know what others are doing. There's a tool for me to understand where objectively, crisply, what others are doing, what they are laddering up to, and how I can ladder up to that goal and create more impact, create more value. Right? Happens within just the first 30 days of the job. And that way you are running faster, right? That way you're moving away from all this traditional ways of thinking. Okay, what time did you come to office? When did you log in? Nobody wants to do all that, right? Nobody wants to even today tell that they don't want to track leaves today, right? They want to say, why is that even a point of contention, right? Flexibility is the only thing that's going to help motivation, and motivated employees are the ones who are going to create value in your organization. So just enable that. Once you're enabling it, putting everything is managed by objectives, people are going to deliver, right? The moment you deliver, you're running faster. Back in, I'm still starting at Hyper, but I can only give you example of Airmeet. I've done work in the last 2 years that in a physical office it would have taken me 5 years to achieve, right? Massive speed. And my team was like I don't know if you have to call it, like they were running like at gun speed, right? But bullet speed. So really glad to have had that team as well. It's nothing's a one-man army to achieve. So you need to have that efficient team also to put things in place. So if last 2 years I've felt success is because we thought differently. We took influence from a lot of other leaders in the industry who are doing better things, right? We didn't want to do let's plug and play others have done, right? We wanted to invent our own stuff. And I think today's leaders are absolutely wanting to do that, right? Another one point is leaders have to be more open, more out there, more driven by culture. If you're more driven by culture, I think your organization is set for better success. If you're driven by just transaction and process, you're only creating very traditional workforce, which is, okay, I'll come at 9 in the morning and leave at 6 in the evening. Don't ask me about anything else. So I think that transformation I'm seeing, it's still not there fully, but definitely it'll get to that place.
Awesome. And I will come back to the part where you talk about leader bias. That is, I do have a follow-up question brewing in my mind with that. But before we come to that, I do have the most pertinent question, which is, I think this webinar is really about, which is, what are the common mistakes that you see startup stage particularly in the HR space. Number one, I would personally count is not hiring an HR manager because for somehow a lot of companies don't even have that when they start off. And that is one. But in general, in terms of management, in terms of policies, what are the most common mistakes that you see in your widespread career?
Absolutely so, Yash. I think you hit the nail on its head. I think what founders feel is, okay, let's not spend so much. Why to hire a HR leader? Let's hire an admin person who will roll out letters. That's the max that they want, right? So they're looking at somebody who can do back-end HR support, kind of a very operational role. And then as they grow, then they struggle with, oh, I'm not able to scale because I don't have those processes to attract more people. Earlier, I attracted because I was small. I could spend more time on with that person, really scaling that person to success. But right now I don't have, and we don't have processes also, right? The HR person or HR team I have is able to only roll out offers or max source for candidates and schedule interviews, right? The problem starts from there. And I would say, some organizations are very smart. They bang on hire HR leaders, and there are 2 to 3 different types of mistakes I've seen, right? And everything is a vicious circle. Why it's a vicious cycle, I'll tell you. Let's pick the first one. First one is you come in, you bring in the HRs, and then you treat HRs like a hiring machine. You go full swing hiring, right? 1 year down the line, you would have hired 200 people, but when you look back, you don't have you have siloed cultures. Everyone's doing their own stuff. Nobody knows what each other is doing. Everybody's running but don't know which direction they're running, right? So suddenly you fully scattered. You have too many people, but everybody is a head but no hand. So that's where the problem arises, where siloed culture is not defined. Nobody knows. There's no purpose around what we're trying to do. There's nobody to bring them together, right? That's a vicious cycle that will later put you in positions where GTM team thinks in one way, and then there's a product is thinking the other way. Tech is delivering something. There is no cohesive way of understanding cross-team collaboration. So, and then everything is in bits and pieces. That is one vicious cycle. And then everybody runs as though, things are happening. But end of the day, the people who are really getting impacted is the customers. Customers now are led to, okay, this is the problem, go to this person. This is the problem, go to that person. Same thing employees also will be doing. Like you want payroll, go to this person. You want, so they are just scattered into hundreds of places, not having enough understanding of how things are functioning. So there's no organized way of working, right? So that happens when you grow too fast with no proper process in place. The other way is you don't grow, right? You grow too slow. You want to put every process in place. You want to be absolutely mindful. Then you lack speed. When you lack speed, you're not attracting people who are ambitious, who are aspirational, right? People want to get into organizations that are aspirational. What the decision they're taking to be with you is they want to see growth faster than anybody else, right? So there has to be so these are the two mistakes that people do, where they're too mindful, and then or they're just not able to pull things together. Ideal way is, of course, you want to hire the right kind of HR leader. Tackle 2 things at a time parallelly, right? You have to balance it out. You want to hire, you do a workforce planning, why you're hiring, what are the KPIs. It's not like you hire because you suddenly thought there's a need. That's also very dangerous, right? You can't bring in people with no trajectory to handle. You can't say you come here and you figure things out, right? That's absolutely blank. That person is also not going to see success. The person also is going to leave because they didn't see much value in what you're trying to project. So there has to be balance into why you're hiring. At least give them the objective. They will figure out what to do, right? Give them the direction. They will figure out how to reach there. And put the culture in place where you're not creating silos. Silos will happen. Groupism, silos are bound to happen no matter what. Even in physical offices, they happen. Back at Capillary, we had an 800-member team. And everybody was saying, oh, we need more cross team. I don't know what the other team is doing. So it's not physical or remote. If you don't create visibility and if you don't create a culture of collaboration, it's bound to happen, right? So create more visibility, create more documentation, create more places where you're able to collaborate together, right? And then all your town halls, all hands, bringing people together to do focus group discussions are all great ways of building culture where everybody collaborates together there. And then you're also converting the mindset from a problem mindset to a solution mindset. So you're not bringing people to come and tell you, oh, I've seen this and this problem. That's just, you're just creating an environment where people can openly crib and whine and all of that. But it's good for you to create an environment where where people come to you and say, okay, Meena, I'm seeing A, B, and C, but I think if you do this X, Y, and Z, it should be able to solve, right? Encourage such people, get feedback constructively, and build the organization fruitfully from there on, right? It creates meaning even for that person to look like, okay, you're creating an inclusive environment where you feel that person is able to come and contribute, not just his areas of concern, but also the way he's able to contribute to get it, make a better impact in the organization. So balance out hiring and culture, and also bring people who are bold to experiment, right? Bring in a team who's innovative. Don't really rely on, oh, I want to get from somebody from this big institute, right? You will burn cash, but I don't know if you're bringing, I mean, no comments on if they can be efficient or not, but I'm just telling you, when you're interview and understand if the person is bold enough to come and experiment. Think innovatively, creatively outside the box, right? You don't want plug and play HR as well. Okay, Zomato, Swiggy and all did, I'll bring all these policies, plug and play. No, it won't, right? You need to, if you have to create a environment which is inclusive, which is diverse, which is not as regular as anybody else, you need to create practices that works for everybody. So bring in policy that says it's very flexible and agile. No one policy fits all, right? You need to be able to be open to cater to a larger amount of demographics. So balancing that out is going to help you. And I'm telling you, but there's one more thing very strongly, Suyash, that no matter what you do, how much you balance out and how much careful you are, you will get a 95% team which aligns with everything. There will be that 5% people who will crib saying, oh, you know what, I still am not happy with X, Y, and Z, but you'll have to deal with it. But it's still better. It's still better than having absolute chaos around you, right? I mean, I would still say chaos is good. Chaos is good in a way that it challenges you. You want to come up with new solutions, run fast, fail fast, and all of that. But chaos in a way that you can't function is not acceptable. So I would say balance it out, but still be ready to open to getting feedback and whatever best thing that you're doing. And I also feel that feedback is the one that's going to help you critically think and better things from where it is, right? It's easy to get to 90% ENPS, right? But from 90 to 91, you need to put 10x effort. From there to anything more, you need to put 100x effort. It doesn't come easy. That means people who crib, who whine, also absolutely valuable, because they're going to give you that piece of advice that later will give you that food for thought on how better you can be on, or anything new that you can do for the org, right? So this is the way I think you will be able to look at these mistakes and mitigate those mistakes.
Yeah, I think those 5%, every place needs a set of devil's advocates just so you don't get into a tunnel vision. And since we were talking about leadership, a lot of this can't be done without leadership buy-in, right? Have you seen that in many places there just leads to a lot of conflict with the leadership, and which only slows down things? And is there a way to go around it? And let me also open it up to a wider domain, wherein a lot of times when you start a startup at the beginning, say just things are a little, for the lack of a better word, chaotic. They are not as organized in terms of policies, in terms of how things are done. And then when you start introducing policies, there's also resistance to that, right? Whether from leadership as well as the wider employee base. How does one deal with it?
Yeah, I think there are two aspects of your question. One is how to deal with the chaos, and another thing is how to create practices that is inclusive. If you're releasing a policy without having a word with anybody, it's definitely going to create a chaos because nobody knows why you put that policy. How is it benefiting me? Right.
Yeah.
So I would say, please take an informed decision and create avenues where you're able to take data driven decisions. And how to do that? Run those surveys, right?
Yeah.
Just a 5-question survey, very very short, 30 seconds. Ask people whether you want this. How do you think it'll impact you? Is there any addition that you want? Right? Anything very very simple, just to get enough input for you to validate whether this policy is going to work, right? Or how else can you tweak it to ensure that everybody else benefits from it?
Mm-hmm.
For example, a leave policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want a policy to be delivered and launched, right? I might think, oh, let's do uncapped leaves, right? There'll be cohorts which says, oh, I'm very happy with uncapped leaves because it's going to benefit me and I can work from anywhere. Doesn't. There'll be a cohort which says, oh, how do I track my people? Right? What if people don't deliver? Right? And there's going to be a cohort which says, if you give me uncapped leave, I fear to take leave because then I might be giving the perception that I'm not working, and that is a FOMO that I can't deal with. I always want to be at the brim of my performance, and everybody has to notice that I'm performing. So I just fear to take leaves. Right? If you don't give me a set of leaves, I feel that I don't deserve to take that leave. So there'll be multiple cohorts. And you can then gauge through the survey which is the biggest cohort and how to deal with the others if they're feeling. So if there's a small cohort feeling, oh, what if people misuse it? Then you can go back to them and say, we also heard that 15% of the people feel that these leaves can be misused and how to mitigate it. Then give them FAQs on how can it be mitigated. If you're managing the objective, you don't have to track leaves. You then call them for a stand-up, call them for reviews, call them for OKR check-ins. That's going to mitigate your deliverables if deliverables are your concern. If your concern is I didn't see him in the office or I didn't see him online, then there's a bigger problem there. Right? You want to tackle that mindset differently. So give them data-driven understanding of why you took this decision and what are the other tenets that you also want to mitigate it. Right? People who say I won't take leaves, I fear to take leaves. Open that conversation for them. Don't fear to take leaves. We're creating checks and balances in a way that you don't have to fear, right? If you're able to deliver all of this, then you might as well take that day off. So if you want to bring in any new policy that is progressive, there will be different cohorts of people thinking differently, but you have to tackle it with data, with information, and mitigate it. If you don't mitigate it, if you didn't have that open conversation, they won't even know on what basis you took it.
Absolutely. This really brings me to my next question, which is around psychological safety, because since we were talking about leaves, sure, psychological safety is generally, and we'll be asking you definitions as well, but I believe psychological safety is generally a lot about being feeling safe in making mistakes, right? But I think it even expands to things like what you just mentioned. Do I feel safe and no guilt in taking leaves? Right. So that's why I would like to use this to segue into that part, which is what is psychological safety really, and how do these HR mistakes that we talked about affect psychological safety at the organization?
Absolutely. I think it's a brilliant sequence of questions, Suyash. It's
Thank
just
you.
that's speaking my brain into multiple aspects right now. And I think, I don't know, from 10 years ago, this entire concept has been following me for a long, right? Say, for example, there was a time where I was working for a very bureaucratical organization where leadership was taking all the decisions and everything, right? So this one CEO would every day at 9 o'clock would come up to the office floor and scan the entire office to see whether people are there in the office or not, right? And then he started really picking people and saying, why aren't you in office at 9? I saw you come at 10:30, and we need to bring in policies. I think I should talk to HR to bring in policies to strengthen, to ensure that everybody works for 9 hours 15 minutes, right?
Wow.
And what do you think would have happened, right?
I mean, yeah, I would figure that would lead to some kind of a mass exodus from the company.
No, back then there weren't so many job openings, right? People didn't feel safe to challenge it.
Yes.
People didn't feel safe to go jump into another job because there were not hundreds of startups that were giving jobs at that point in time. People retaliated simply in a way that they would come at 9 o'clock and they would leave at 6. End of story. Don't ask me to perform. Don't ask me to do anything. There's absolutely zero production. There's absolutely zero efficiency. I would do one thing in a day because I felt it was important. For you, important is that I arrived at office at 9. Yeah, take it. I came at 8:45. But I left at 6 o'clock. And no questions asked. Because they were retaliating it in a way that created a downturn for the organization. Nobody was productive because they didn't feel safe to come and talk to the person because he had age-old traditional ways of thinking, and it was not basically enabling them. If the person told, okay, if 9 is not working for you, what would work for you? Let's enable it. That's a different conversation to have. That's a different flex to give, right? So if you're rigid, you're gonna get retaliation in the same opposite direction. That's gonna really harm the organization, right? And come to another organization some 5 years ago. There used to be this manager who says, I'm so approachable. I go on the office telling everybody that I'm so approachable. You can come and talk to me at any point in time. And I'm there to solve your problems. I'm there to back you up, right? And after a couple of months, he comes to me and say, Meena, I've been telling people, come and talk to me. But nobody comes and talks to me. Till date, nobody has come and spoken to me. Right? Then I went to the floor and asked people, what is it? What's happening? Right? Why aren't you? This person says he's so approachable, he's so nice, he's so open, he's coming to you and telling anytime you can approach. And those people told Meena, you know what? He comes to the floor and says all of this, but he sits secludedly in an office cabin. Right? If I knock the door and go, everybody's going to see that I'm going to specially go and talk to him, and everybody's going to be curious of what I spoke to him. Right? The environment was not conducive for it.
Yeah.
Then came the change that everybody, even CEOs, are sitting in the same floor right now, and they want to pally up with people, right? So those are the ways that people are trying to change things and make it safe for people. Make it even safe is just not safe, right? It's making people feel comfortable as well, right? Then switch to newer ways of working. Everybody's working remote. I'm doing a skip level meeting, okay, and I'm talking to one set of tech folks. Or okay, anybody. I'm just speaking to 10 people on a call, trying to understand, hey, how are things going? Do you have any concerns? Why don't you tell me? I'll ping you later, Meena. Okay. And then I'm trying to give them leads, right? Okay, are you happy with the policy? Are you happy with this? Are you happy with that? Everything's going fine now, Meena. Then later I understood that skip level meeting apparently had his manager also there.
Oh no.
So in front of that manager, that person, nobody wanted to open their mouth. That
of
means
course.
they feel safe to share. That means there's something absolutely wrong about that situation, and that mindset of that people, that they're not feeling comfortable enough to share even if they had problems, right? So these are all stages and phases in which I've seen how things are not becoming comfortable from the traditional ways of working to newer ways of working. It's about so safety is about, even if a manager is there, I shouldn't fear to give my opinion. If I fear, then there's absolutely something wrong about acceptance. You don't feel inclusive, you don't feel belonged, right? So if the manager told them, or he created that environment saying, be open, let's chat about it, let's be more open about the problems, we want to collectively think about improving things, right? And again, another story is we do all hands very frequently, and in all hands nobody asks any questions. And we're saying this is a leadership AMA, ask questions. Nobody asks any questions. That means there is another way of thinking about it, right? No, everybody is very happy, so they have no questions. No, it's not. That means they're not willing to ask questions. They don't feel that they're going to get the right kind of answers. They don't feel that if I ask this question, maybe I'll be targeted later, right? Yeah. So just making them feel comfortable that I'm not going to target you, right? You can even introduce anonymous. Give them anonymous forms to fill in forms and ask questions, right? Yeah. Or even create FAQs in a way that you answer those tough questions and open it up for the larger set of employees or larger set of cohorts to probe on top of it, right? when you become vulnerable as a leader, or when you become vulnerable as a manager, you're absolutely letting other people feel that you're also human. You're also trying to solve problems as equally as the other person may be thinking, right? So you kind of attract those conversations. You open up. If only when you open up, make it comfortable, will you see that manager employee relationship, founder employee relationship, HR employee relationship, just inter team serendipity, everything
Mhm.
improves. And then you're able to have direct conversations. You
Yeah.
won't fear having conversations saying, if I'm giving this person direct feedback, will he take it negatively, will he retaliate after that, right?
Yeah.
Even managers start feeling that, how can I give feedback to this person? If I give feedback, will he leave,
Yeah.
right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, if you have to retain, create more stickiness, create an environment which is safe, comfortable, I think it just starts with creating more inclusive environment, creating an open environment where people feel belonged. And I wouldn't even say create a family, right? Family also drives it in a very negative format.
Absolutely.
You take things for granted. You don't want to be in a workplace. You don't want it to be family. It should be like a sports team, right? You pally up to an extent that you get the best out of everybody, right? And it's
Yeah.
very objective, right? And then it's not like, oh, if I do something, you're gonna later come and tell, how did you do this to me? No, it's not. They were not your relatives, cousins. You come back and ask that revengey question, right? So create that very sports team kind of a culture where it's objective driven. You
Yeah.
go personally up to an extent. You don't have to go deep down to the personal level where each of them feel uncomfortable to share things, right? Get to a level where you know things, but at least you should know,
Yeah.
right? Ask them how
Absolutely.
it went. Get to know things, but you don't have to go so deeper that they become uncomfortable. Get to know things, make them comfortable, make them open up, share things. If when you share the most vulnerable thing that's happening to you, your team also will share it with you. So that way you're able to create very, very cohesive
Mhm.
team with a one vision mindset.
Absolutely.
Take a pause.
We are, no worries. I mean, we're down to the last 5 minutes. So I just wanted to check Angel and Shreya, who are the two other participants here. If you had any questions for Meena, you can just use the raise hand thing. I will unmute you and you can share your questions, or you can type in the chat with for me, and I will take them up myself. But in the meantime, I think one of the things, going back to, we were talking about the mistakes that HR makes. Sorry, the HR mistakes that startups make. The one thing that a word that you were using was open. Be open. Be open. And I think that's one of the major things, right? Where leadership needs to come in without any preconceived notions, and that's where the cooperation really starts with HR, right?
Absolutely. I think that's a very interesting point, Suyash. Open, right? There are multiple tenets to this open, right? It's just not open conversation, open mindset, right? Say, for example, I was just talking to you a few minutes ago about how open nowadays people are to hire talent with absolutely no education background, right? 12th pass, if you're able to code, hire them. If you feel that they are, matching that caliber of the skill set that you require, hire them. How many people are open to it?
Yeah.
Just not open conversation, but an open mindset to explore, right?
Yeah.
So I would say building great culture is include diverse talent, right? Be open to bring in. I don't know. There is diversity in an extent that you can't imagine today, right? There were only gender diversity we knew of last, but you're open to now bringing in people with different backgrounds,
True.
different ethnicity, nationality, different sexual orientation, different mental orientation, everything, right? So open in terms of, and then create that inclusiveness. It's just not bringing them to the table, but also giving them a voice, right? All those are going to make a difference in the way that you define open,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
There's still so much in my mind, but I'm not able to articulate it so efficiently right now.
No
But
worries, no
for
worries. You can
openness and
always come back. I have a question here from Priya, which is, why is the HR business partner role being introduced in because we hear a lot of this role only in the recent times. Is that true? Is it something more recent? And what is the whole purpose behind it?
Got it. See, HRBP, I think role, I wouldn't say it's recent, it's been around for almost 10, 12 years now, right? Right now, the newer roles that are coming is people excellence,
Hmm.
um, and people and culture, people experience,
Happiness officer.
yeah, happiness officer, HR advisor, wellness officer. All
Yes.
that is new right now because everybody wants to get that fair share of bringing the right kind of culture, bring the right kind of happiness into the organization, wellness into the organization. But HRBP, I'm telling you, has been carved out very nichely for a very strategic reason, right? It's not operations, it's not hiring. What is HRBP, right? So HRBP is once somebody has been hired, how do you
Hmm.
strategically ensure the success of that person in collaboration with that person's manager,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Everything that HRBP does. It could be understanding how that person gets assimilated within the team, creating that buddy program where the person's able to really gel and get inducted fast. You're putting that programs in place where that the person is enabled to succeed in the next 30, 60, 90 days and do that every quarter, right? Ensure that person's objectives are set. Uh,
Hmm.
ensure the person's performance aspirations are taken into consideration. Ensure that their aspirations are actually accounted for in their objectives, right? And strategically partner with the stakeholder to ensure their team grievances, their team dynamics are handled in a more professional way, more dynamic way. Ensure that top talent is retained, right? And identify the top talent. Ensure you ring fence the top talent to retain them within the organization. So there's so much work for an HRBP, but from a very objective standpoint, right? So it's
Hmm.
not operations, it's not hiring, but everything to do with how you help get the person succeed in the organization. And that's creating a lot of dependency on how the business is run. So every function head or every head of department will partner with the HRBP to ensure his job, his areas of excellence are met with the resources that he has, and he's able to do it while he's able to retain the talent, while he's able to ring fence the talent, while he's able to create upskilling opportunities for the talent, while he's able to push the talent, motivate them to achieve more.
Yeah.
I hope I'm able to give you a holistic view of what the HRBP is, and it's not new, it's been established. I'm seeing HRBP roles in the last 10, 12 years. Now it's bifurcating into even granular,
Hmm.
right? Even granular to a level that there are wellness officers, there are remote efficiency officers, right? Like how do we pick a problem statement and go absolutely deeper into it and have somebody manage it? So now HRBP is becoming general,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
will see more bifurcations in that. And there are always has been COEs, right? Like somebody taking care of rewards, somebody taking care of learning, somebody taking care of comp and ben, somebody taking care
Yeah.
of operations, shared services. That always has been there. And always in the sense, I think in the last 15 years I've seen all of those roles. It's not new. Right now people are looking for HR advisors, like advice, coach your leadership, right? Consultatively
Yes.
coach in a way that they're able to take decisions for the betterment of the organization, right?
Yeah.
This also has no discussion with employees or ring fencing them or looking at top talent and all of this, just coaching leadership. So that's HR advisory role. So there are newer roles that are coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I really hope, Shreya, that answered your question. We have a question here from Angel as well, but we are out of time. So, Angel, maybe you can ask a question to Meena directly in office. Uh, so, Meena, thank you so much. This has been amazing. And it has, we definitely emerged wiser from this session. And thank you so much for giving us your time today. Very honored to have you on.
Thank you so much, Suash. I think you picked my brain. I didn't have answers for all of that, but it just took me. I took a nostalgic journey from the start of my start of my career to now, how things really panned out. So thanks for that recollection of what had happened so far. I didn't even do that for my interview here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to you who joined us today. We'll be back in another 2 weeks with another exciting session for you guys. So please take care of yourself and have a good 2 weeks till then. Thank you and have a good day. Bye bye.
Take care.